market is crashing. The market isn't crashing, but the market's not doing great. Actually, this is going to be a deep dive into how bad the market is right now. And bad, remember, is good for buyers, bad for sellers. Bad means bad if I already own the real estate. Good if I don't own real estate and I want to acquire real estate. That's the part that usually gets lost. But we're going to do a deep dive today into the statistics. We're going to go over all the Fraser Valley stats so you understand what's going on out there very in depth, because it's my job as Surrey's biggest YouTube real estate channel and one of the biggest ones across the country to keep you up to date on the market. So that's what we're going to do here today. Remember that if you need help with real estate and you're in Surrey, the Fraser Valley, or anywhere in Greater Vancouver, you can book a call with me right now using the link in the description below. And then just kindly subscribe to the channel if you'd like to stay up to date on the market. And also go ahead and give me a click of the like button because it really helps get this information out to other folks. So each month as the real estate board puts out their statistics, I like to go over them, and I do it in something called the Surrey Report. And the only way we can start that off is by my amazing team telling you exactly what's gone on in my hometown, the City of Surrey. And stay tuned because right after that, we're going to dive into these statistics, and they are eye-opening.
In the detached market, benchmark price is around 1.6 million. That's a 1.3% decrease month over month and a 3.4% decrease year over year.
Looking at our townhouse market, there was 160 sales in the month of May. That is down from the 208 sales in the same period last year. The benchmark price is sitting at $860,500. That is down 0.3% month over month and down 3% year over year.
Our condo sales in May were 160 units. In 2024, we had 256, which is a reduction of 37.5%. Benchmark price at the end of May is $519,800. That is 0.8% month over month reduction, and a further reduction year over year of 5.2%.
Okay, so that was the actual City of Surrey, which we're going to dive into a little bit further here as well. But I wanted to kind of give you a how's the market side of things right now before we dive into the stats. Here's what's going on in the marketplace. We're seeing this, and I guess it's a good news, I guess you could call it that, compared to where we've been over the last 3, 4, 5 months. Currently, not a great year. I think sales are down something like 23% year over year from last year, and last year was not a great year. So that's kind of the baseline of where we're at. But here's what we've seen over the last week or two now. Prices have come down to a spot where buyers are feeling comfortable offering on those properties. That does not mean that they're coming in with very high offers. Generally speaking, they are still much lower than the seller is willing to accept a lot of the time, but they are coming in. They are also much lower than the last sale that was in the building, maybe a week or 2 or 3 weeks ago. Much lower. But I will say that the amount of offers that we have received on our listings over the last, let's call it 10 days, is more so than previous months combined. So the activity in the market is picking up. I've actually phoned a lot of my top producing real estate friends, all my buddies in the industry. They are feeling very much the same way. The big key, though, is the sellers aren't super happy with those prices. Then the question is, well, this is now market. Do you want to accept that? Or do you want to stay on the market like you have been for so long? So that's the gist in the market. Activity's picking up. Prices are not. Prices are coming down to a spot where the buyers are going, okay, this might make sense. Now, speaking of prices, let's hop in. So this is going to be very, very thorough today. So this is the entire Fraser Valley Real Estate Board benchmark pricing in all asset classes, attached and detached. And you're going to see this actual pretty big little significant, big little, is that a thing? Curve. So this is now, since benchmark price was really put in 2005. So let's now zoom in to the last 5 years so we can see what we're dealing with. We are still well above the January 2023 crash. So we're still above that by the tune of, well, let's call it 30, 40,000 bucks. The craziness, obviously, and then we've kind of seen this winding down of all of that pandemic spending, low interest rates, all that stuff. So prices are headed down. The overall marketplace, this helps no one, this stat, by the way, because you're not buying the overall marketplace. You have one property or multiple properties in certain areas, certain pockets, certain asset types. But the overall market is down year over year, 4.3%. Now, that is significant because it is also adjusted for through some metrics that they use at the HPI. And it's a much smoother line as opposed to if we hop into average, you can see what's going on with average. It's much more jagged. So if a luxury property sells or a bunch of low-end properties sell, that will affect this pricing a lot more. So if you look at HPI, we're actually down lower than any point we have been since the crash in 03. And that was legitimately a crash, or it was a really big peak in advance, whatever you want to call it. But when you go to average pricing is actually still up and up significantly, even since December of 23. So that's why I don't put as much weight on average pricing. I don't like it. HPI is a much better indicator. And this is what we are seeing across most of the marketplace. Why is that happening? Well, it's because sales are low. Sales are low. Why are sales low? Well, there's not a lot of consumer confidence. For instance, this is May. This last year, just this last May, 1,057 homes sold in the Fraser Valley. Now we're going to go through each city. That's North Delta all the way out to Mission. But that was in a May. Like, look at May 2013, which was a very down time. Still more sales than we've had now. Let's go May 09. Way more sales than we've had now. Now, that was actually kind of the rebound. This kind of 08, beginning of 09 time was the really down portion. But we kind of sprung back. Even in that 2013 year, it was much better than where we are now for amount of sales. When you have a very low amount of sales, what happens? Your active listings start to spike. Active listings is all of your new listings from last month, which is quite high, added on top of all of the other active listings to make current active listings. It looks like we are reaching, what are we at? July 08, right before the great financial crisis, 8,384. Now, this does exclude some other listings that are on the board. This is just attached, detached condos, single family townhouses, that sort of thing. And we're basically there. I mean, we are, for all intents and purposes, we're there, and we will likely surpass that. Now, there's also population growth, other things to think about. But we are up 39.6% year over year total listings. Months of supply, which is also very similar to consumption rate, just in the reverse order. Months of supply is really high. Months of supply just for these property types, and I think this is actually really low compared to if you add in the other property types. Sorry, I'm going to put my phone on Do Not Disturb, and I will try to edit that out, but I may not. Again, May 09, similar type levels to where we're at now. Now, this stuff also wasn't good, right? You had this time of 01 where you have 1 month supply. That was insanity. That's why the insanity happened. But now we have months of supply going up quite substantially. And the last thing I'll show you is average days on market. Now, average days on market of properties that manage to sell. This is only counting properties that manage to sell, because days on market average doesn't matter for the ones that don't sell. The ones that do sell average just over a month on the market. So it's not that bad, although it's heading back upwards. We've seen days on market being average in, again, that 09 crisis of being more than 2.5 times, the amount that we're at right now. So average days on market of properties that sold, not that bad across the entire marketplace. So if you're not sold in 32 days, you're overpriced. You guessed it. That's where it's at. Now into the marketplaces in each city. So I know North Delta isn't technically a city. It's half of a city, but it is the only half of the city that's in my real estate board area. So let's take a look at what's going on. Benchmark pricing in detached houses. Man, it suffered significantly just since last month. It went down, what is that, $70,000 in 1 month. Is that 5% in a single month? Townhouses in North Delta are actually increasing in price in benchmark prices, as are, well, I'd say condos are staying quite flat. They're actually down. You can see here it says 3.7% year over year. However, it has come up since the beginning of the year. Condos, however, in North Delta, there's very, very few of them. So I don't put a lot of weight into that. I like to look at the Surrey condo side, especially the Queen Mary Park area and that kind of Scott Road corridor. But generally speaking, townhouses, which there aren't a lot of either, they are doing not bad in North Delta. The detached market in North Delta has come down substantially, and we are seeing that out there. Their buyers are starting to return, but for instance, lot value that they are putting on like a teardown house, if they want to rebuild something new, is a lot less than it was before. Looking at average pricing, see, this is why I don't like average pricing. Average pricing says that the detached market actually went up $60,000, and that we know that's not true. And that's why I refer back to benchmark pricing. Generally speaking, though, if you look at average price over like I know each one of these lines is like $250,000, so that's a big swing. But generally speaking, over the last 3 years, we've seen really large swings up to $250,000, but they are quite flat in the overall number of sales. Again, this is not a big sample set. Apartments, you're talking 11 apartments. Townhouses, you're talking 5 townhouses. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But sales are also, maybe for sales, we should back out a little bit. You can see they're really, really low, the number of sales that we're having. Active listings on the market. This is why the detached market is having trouble in North Delta, because look at how many active listings are on the market compared to where we have been in the past. Months supply also through the roof. So this is what we expect. We expect prices to continue to come down. And the last one, again, I'll show you is average days on market. Nothing crazy here, but everything's kind of kicking in and around that 30-day mark as well. The area of Surrey combined is a little more boring, actually. So the Surrey combined is the entire city of Surrey, excluding White Rock, which could be involved in some South Surrey White Rock numbers. This is actually the city. This is the one we reported on earlier. And this is actually where you would expect to see most of the pain. The condo market, particularly in Surrey, is doing really, really rough. However, not necessarily the entire city. Those are going to be more pocketed areas, particularly Whalley, where most of those condos are. So right now we're actually seeing, again, this condo line, 519 for the HPI. I mean, it's kind of been floating around that 5.5 to as low as 495 for the last 3 years here. So it's not a big, massive deterioration in the entire marketplace of condos, contrary to what you're hearing out there. But the overall market is definitely down. The house market is also definitely down. The townhouse market is actually doing not that bad. Let's take a look at average sales. Again, nothing super crazy to report about here. The average sales actually look pretty good as far as prices go. Number of sales actually trending up, which is kind of what we expected now. We're kind of expecting to go into this spring market. But again, let's look at sales from a distant point of view. Obviously, a lot lower than it has been over previous years. So that's not looking super hot for Surrey, as we expect. Detached active listings, well, all the listings are starting to stack up, which is what's going to continue to put pressure down. Months of supply is skyrocketing. Look at this. Detached homes in Surrey over almost double a buyer's market right now. 6.5 to 7 months is a buyer's market. 12.5 months of supply for detached homes in Surrey right now. So expect, if you have a detached home in Surrey to sell over the next little bit, prices are going to come down, even though, again, average price or average time on market to sell is just over 30 days for each one, while townhouses are a little bit less. So again, if you're not sold within 30 days, reduce your price. You have to do that. You got to reduce your price. Just because we have to focus a little bit of doom and gloom for all you doom and gloomers out there that love it. This is the Whalley condo market right now. We are seeing the prices. I mean, they're the actual spot that's down below the end of the 23 crash. If we actually head back out here in time, actually, I'm going to show you historical. Again, this is condos in Whalley. They are headed back towards, well, prices haven't been like this since, let's call it, December 2021. The average sale price is actually turned up last month, which again is why I don't focus on average sales. But the number of sales is, well, 66 isn't that bad, I guess, the number compared to where we have been in the past. However, there's so many more active listings on the marketplace. Look at this right now. You have 735 active condos on the market as of the end of May. That's putting you at a month supply overall of 10.7. Now, there was much less active listings on the market back here in, the really tough years, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Those were really tough years in Whalley. The month supply was much, much higher then, even though you had a lot less available. Again, this is a population thing for the city of Surrey. And then the average days on market of the ones that sell, still 29 days. So if you're not sold your Whalley condo in 29 days, you're overpriced. The city of White Rock is down. It's down year over year, about 2%. The apartments there are really the ones that are taking the hit, even though it looks like a very small segment or a small downward trend. It's not that big of a deal because the price point is 3 times less than the detached market, but it's down 5% year over year. Average pricing, again, I don't like average pricing because of this. If you end up with a luxury home in White Rock that sells for a lot, you end up with these high prices. And then if nothing luxury sells for a month, you end up with really low prices. New listings, not so bad. Thankfully, the detached market is coming down, but active listings, detached market's coming down there too, thankfully, but active listings remain super high, particularly in apartments. Months of supply detached. Look at that. 18.4 months of supply in detached White Rock homes. That is a ton. 1 in every 18.4 homes per month is selling. That's kind of crazy to me. And no surprise, days on market. It's higher for apartments and it's lower for townhouses, but the detached is right around that exact same mark. Now, all of Langley is, again, a very, very big area. Langley is actually faring well. What I've noticed out in Langley is that if you end up with a, let's call it 10,000, 20,000 acre square foot lot, whatever you got, like a big lot with a newer house on it, those are still going up in value. So they're doing very, very well because people with money want to go live not near other people, and they can afford to do so. Townhouses only down 1.2%. Houses only down 1% year over year. Condos out that way are actually holding up as well. Not that bad. Average pricing, again, look at this big kind of dip. So some acreages didn't sell. Did it really dip in 2 months? $300,000 in Langley? I don't think so. You're just going to have that silly average pricing that we should never use. New listings are up in Langley for sure. Active listings in the detached market in Langley are really, really high. Let's check out compared to the max. We are now very much in line with 2012, not quite in the 08 range. So detached up 35% year over year in number in Langley of listings on the marketplace. Month supply is really high. 8.1. It's been a long time since we've seen months of supply in Langley into a buyer's market. That's why their prices have actually held up. So prices could be coming down there over the next little bit. And no shocker, I should even stop doing this for the next cities because the average time to sell is right around 30 days. The city of Abbotsford is seeing that downward trend kicking in as well, but only down 3.1, and then in apartments 3.7%. It's been pretty flat. The overall cities, I guess what I'm getting at here is the overall cities aren't doing too bad, but if you're in the wrong spot at the wrong time, you're getting hammered, much like Whalley, like we talked about earlier. Average pricing is, again, down substantially to the tune of $80,000 in detached houses, but take that with a grain of salt. The number of sales up. People maybe taking a look at those areas. I know we have a lot of clients that have gone back to the traditional kind of segment of the market where they were selling in North Delta, Surrey, or Langley and moving out to Abbotsford or even out to Chilliwack. That trend is starting to come back. So this doesn't shock me at all that segment of the market's actually not doing too bad, even though prices are coming down. New listings to the market are, of course, up like everybody else, and active listings continue to stack up, particularly in detached homes, putting the months of supply into a buyer's market across the entire Abbotsford marketplace. And then, days on market actually trending a little bit higher in Abbotsford compared to the other cities. And last and probably least, is Mission. Mission seen some, again, big swings, very few townhouses out there, very few condos out there as well. It is closer to a rural, or what we refer to as the sticks, if you're going to call it that. So we have seen a downturn in detached houses, but year over year, Mission apartments and townhouses both up just slightly, just ever so slightly. I feel like the weatherman here. Average pricing, again, take it for what you will, seems to be fairly flat. Sales are actually quite high for the last month in Mission, kind of continuing that trend of people leaving in closer to town and heading out towards Mission. New listings, detached market through the roof, which means the actives. Look at this. Look at the actives. Let's go back out. Actives are at as high a point in detached homes in Mission right now than they have been since like 2013. So we're seeing that kind of inventory just continue to stack up and stack up and stack up. Months of supply. Apartments you have to really not pay much attention to in Mission because there's so few of them. But we are at 11 months. I think, what did I do a report on back here? At one point in 2023, when you actually pulled the stat for a certain segment, there was like 38 months of supply in apartments. So it was kind of silly. But the sales to active ratio is not crazy out of line. And then you have that average time on market. Look at this. Again, very small sample set, but townhouses in Mission are taking double as long as the average time to get sold, while apartments and detached, again, are averaging closer to that 1 month range. Prices are coming down. Sales are down to the tune of about 23% year to date. So that's number of sales, which eventually leads to the listing stacking up and the prices coming down. We are seeing prices come down substantially, but in certain pockets. I can't stress this enough. In certain pockets, the overall market is definitely coming down. If you've got a property in Whalley, you're in tough. If you got a detached teardown home in North Surrey right now, you're in tough. But if you got a really nice, I don't know, let's call it 2,000 square foot townhouse in Clayton or Willoughby, you're doing great. Maybe things will pick up. Personally, I think we're going to continue to see this slowness through most of the rest of the year with slight declines as we go. So buyers out there, start thinking about now's the time to maybe start taking advantage of this, because we don't want to wait until it goes back into the craziness, which will eventually will. Could be 6 months from now, could be 2 years from now, could be 5 years from now. You may want to consider getting into the marketplace. And if you're a seller and you're looking to sell, which so many people are right now, the reality of this market shows me that your highest price is likely the soonest sale. So even though you don't like the price that your real estate agent's telling you, and no, I want to try higher, trying higher means you will sell for less later on. When you come around to actually reducing your price to where your agent wanted you in the first place, the price will be lower then. That's the way the market works. And the market is the market. It is a crazy time out there. It's not fun if you're trying to sell. You've got to be committed to doing it. And if you're a buyer, go have fun. This is your time.